Alright, here's a commercial emergency ballast circuit here. You have to excuse the extra clutter here, but this is pretty much what it is here. And got one down. Here's another one. So this is actually a keystone ballast. It's for LEDs. So you want to run LED loads from these type of ballasts, but they make some for fluorescence. But so this one right here, essentially the idea is just that if you're running an emergency circuit, and commercial buildings are required to have emergency lighting, so when you lose power, you'll actually have battery backups kick in the fixtures themselves. And these normally last anywhere from an hour to maybe a few hours tops. This particular circuit, the battery that was actually in here was one of these, and I was always kind of curious what it was running from. I've seen older ones that didn't run from that high of a voltage. This right here is 14.4. So it looks to be 4 lithium batteries of some type in series. And the milliamp hour rating on that point is not going to be all that great, but you still get a couple hours at least of runtime. And the driver itself puts out about 300 volts open circuit, and you can drive anything up to about 5 watts with that. So I've got 2 examples here. This one down here is hooked up to one, and it's currently plugged in. This one here is hooked up to, this is actually a 50 watt floodlight, but I'm running it from a driver right now that's only cranking 25 watts or so. So that's still pretty bright. But I noticed the unloaded output voltage on the battery when in charge mode was about 17 volts. So I figured, let me see what it would do to a 12 volt battery, which is 2 old 6 volts in series, and that's the voltage that's actually sitting at now. So the whole idea obviously is, here's your test button. When you've got electricity, then the actual light is being powered from the mains, and at the same time it's charging the battery. And you lose power, which this little test button just simulates a loss of power, which I can show. Then your battery backup kicks in, so that's running off the battery now. If I unclick it, back to mains, back to battery. So you can see from the battery voltage here, from these old crappy 6 volts, that now it's charging, now it's draining, now it's charging, now it's draining. Now I was wondering if I could throw a healthy large 12 volt on here and use that to drive the driver and get much longer run times than from this puny little battery here. And I was thinking maybe the unloaded 17 volts or so would work out to fully charge a large enough battery but not overcharge it. So I've had this charging for a few days now, and it seems to bring these 2 cells up to about 14 or so volts. Now whether that will keep rising all the way up to 17, it's hard to say. It probably will, but these batteries are also very old and crappy, and they drain very quickly. Maybe quicker than these would. So that's just a test setup. But we can look at the other one here, and got that plugged in. When I unplugged that one, then you could see LED backup kicks in there. Now it's not incredibly bright, but that's actually not bad. So basically the whole idea is, if you want to have something somewhere in your house that is immediately upon power out, like this right here, it'll kick back in, then these little ballasts are good to have. Now, I used to keep little bug lights in here just for that purpose that will run for a while off battery power, and those use lights like this right here. Those actually last, I got about 4 hours or so from them, so those are a good alternative. But I think something like this right here would work pretty well if you just wanted to throw it on a much bigger bank. So in this situation, I could throw it on a 12-volt bank of batteries like that, leave it plugged in, rig it with switches so that when I actually cut the light off, then the battery backup won't kick back in. And there's ways to do that with these circuits. Like with this driver, for example, if you pull these leads apart, then the driver can no longer source current from the battery, but the battery will still charge when plugged into the mains. This particular ballast has two black leads. One is a switched wire and the other one is the mains. So you can actually independently flip this light off by disconnecting these two blacks, and you'd run one through your switch. That will give you the ability to actually cut the light on and off. Whereas normally with these lights, it's always going to be on, more or less. So something like that right there. Obviously that's draining way too quickly, but if those were healthy cells, I would imagine I could get a setup like this to where if I know a storm's coming, plug that sucker in, and I know that no matter what I'm doing at the time, if I immediately lose electricity, I'm going to have backup lights immediately kick on that should last me more than a couple hours, which is what you're liable to get from one of these small things. And even that is useful. Just buying a ballast like this itself, throwing some LED lights on it, maybe put it in your garage or somewhere where you wouldn't want to go completely dark, then it'd at least give you temporary light immediately during a blackout, so you can go find your flashlight or whatever your other lights may be. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool benefit to these, and the fact that the charging voltage on this particular unit seemed to work out for 12-volt lead acids. Hey, pretty cool deal.